So that's, if you look on the website again of each school, you're going to see very similar requirements to get in. Then the actual process of can I make it yes or no depends on many factors. Being at the right place at the right time, because for example, such and such school is very low in trumpet players. So you play trumpet and you have a good level, you have every chance to get in. So this balance, of course, you don't know when you try the exam. You just have to go through the process. So in terms of what you need to know, I think that's quite clear because that's explained in all those websites of each school. What I noticed, as I said before, a lack of jazz language, that's a very common criticism, and insufficient ear training. And if you think that jazz is mostly based on hearing, I mean, as far as I can tell, those of us who play in the Quincy program, once we pass the stage of reading notes, it's all about hearing. And if somebody plays in front of the whole section, it doesn't mean he can't play, it means he's not listening. So this band experience, which is why Jazzaar is so great, that's something that's very important because you pass the stage of can I read or not to can I make music with a band, because we all agree that in a band what makes it special is that you can have 5 players or 20, but it sounds like one guy playing. So what I love about this experience is that I'm playing my part, but 80% of my attention is to the lead trumpet and the drummer. Because if I don't listen to those two guys, all my notes make no sense. I'm not playing by myself. And if Terry Lynn is playing a medium swing behind a beat, I'm going to go with her. And not, I like to play medium swing on top, so she's wrong. We all have to meet. So lack of jazz experience and I would say not enough practical ear training. So what happens is when you start a bachelor, if you are let's say at the basic level in those areas, you're going to have to work really hard because the 3 years bachelor goes so fast. And the way the system functions is the difference. What I can see with the previous system is that the chance that every student has today is that he's finishing school with a diploma which is recognized everywhere. So you no longer have to do what we always had to do, which is, my diploma, when you apply somewhere for a job, you have to spend the first 30 minutes explaining all the stuff you did, why it's like that. Now, at least that part is, you don't have to do it anymore because you have the same title as an architect, as a lawyer, and this is important. Of course, it's already been in the States for a long time, but not in Europe. And what's interesting also to see is that in Europe you have really two different speeds or two different systems. You have Northern Europe, which is very advanced, and then the further south you go, the less well-structured things are in the academic sense. It doesn't mean that there's not. Some of the best players I ever heard come out of Italy, but there's no structure for them. But in terms of the bachelor master, clearly the Nordic countries are way ahead. Also in terms of involving jazz players together with classical players, they don't even think about it. It's just natural, they do it. And we're still scratching our head and see what could we do next year, using the classical department, so that we no longer do only jazz stuff and they only do classical. We try and bring both together. So this is interesting for me to notice that there's really two different systems in Europe. So my encouragement is basically to tell you to use all the time you have to develop those basic things that I've been talking about. There's much more to music than playing your instrument, even though that's of course one of the essential ingredients. And I think we all know for each instrument which is the quickest way to get to the highest level possible. You don't have to reinvent this, it's already been done. You just have to spend hours doing it with the right teacher and with the right methods. So that for me goes without saying. Then the practical aspect is what is often missing. So the jazz vocabulary, the ear training, because actually nowadays, I don't think there's ever been a period in history when there's been so many books written about jazz. I mean, not autobiographies, I mean methods. I mean, Jerry Bergonzi is now, 7 books? James Snydero, 3 different levels, which I use in my sight reading things. That didn't exist 20 years ago. So there's so much stuff, and it's easy to lose the focus of what's important. Also, a lot of these books, for my own sake, I think are too advanced for a lot of people. We need good books for the beginners and the medium level people, because that's where I think jazz education is missing mostly, I would say.
How important do you think it is for an applicant to have historical knowledge
of jazz or
of jazz, and be able to come in and know something about Ellington or Miles Davis? Do you question the applicants on any of that kind of knowledge?
Not at the entrance exam, but the jazz history course is a first-year course, and there again we noticed the lack of, probably not a lack of interest, just a lack of knowledge. And at the end of your practical exam, there's always an informal talk where we want to know a little bit more about the student. Because you write a motivation letter, but we want to really know what motivates you. And often, I mean, sometimes I will ask students, who do you listen to? And one piano student said, well, I listen a lot to Brad Mehldau, and then he said, also like some of the ancient guys. And I said, who would that be? And I thought he was going to say, Earl Garner or Fats Wallaby. He said, Herbie Hancock. I said, man, if he's ancient, then he's going to have a lot of work to do. But I'm not inventing this. This was last year. That just shows me, the perception. So it's great if they have some knowledge, but often they don't. Then the next challenge for me is to find the right teacher to teach this kind of students that, there's some great value to checking out Ellington and whoever we're talking about. So you have to look back.
Yeah. See, David, the main problem with history is there's no libraries for the students to go and listen to the music.
And that also.
And that's really the key element. I make a library of almost 250 gigabytes of music available to my students. So if they want, they can get it. And the wanting is one thing, but the availability, I tell you, there's no school anywhere in Switzerland that has actually not even a tenth of my library.
Yeah. But the problem, everything's on the internet. So actually, normally if you're interested, you would go and check out Louis Armstrong, because there's probably stuff on YouTube.
It's just amazing to me that at entrance auditions, a student will come in and play a piece by Miles Davis or Bach or whatever, and you ask them, well, say a few things about this.
Yeah,
they haven't got a clue. And the thing is, I can't understand how anybody could play a piece by Miles Davis without knowing when it was written, why he wrote it, and, the influences. Because the music's not just in the notation.
Right. But that goes back to this for me, the key time is the gymnasium years. I mean, when you really get serious, usually, we've all gotten serious into music sometimes before that, but let's say those last years leading to Matura, that's a key moment. first of all, to develop your instrumental abilities, and to learn about the music and find out, well, how come so many guys talk about the same person? You know, if Coltrane, Jimmy Heath, James Moody, all these guys, Chris Potter, talk about Dexter Gordon, I think the next thing I want to do is check out Dexter directly. You know, because probably if so many different key players talk about the same person, or Lester Young,